This is one of my favorite parts about sailing. Leaving somewhere bright early in the morning, getting to watch the sunrise and seeing the light as it hits everything for the first time. And yeah, getting excited for the day to come.
Hey, I'm Brooke, and this is Conley, and this is our princess/adventure dog, Moi. Together we live on board Acklet, our 38-foot tiny home on the water. Join us as we sail around the world and share with you a little bit more of this planet's wild side.
After spending a few days exploring Murray's Labyrinth while waiting for a southeast gale to settle down in the strait, it was time to continue our journey north, around Cape Caution, and onto British Columbia's central coast. Cape Caution is one of the few sections of the Inside Passage exposed to open ocean. A mixture of shallow water, strong currents, and swell rolling in off the Pacific can make for some pretty impressive seas off the Cape. At first light, we motored out of our cozy anchorage and raised the sails. We found ourselves sailing with a strong southeast wind, which kept us reaching along under our working jib and a deeply reefed main. Ideally, you want to time a northbound transit of Cape Caution for low tide, with winds from the southeast. This way you have the wind and current with you for the trip. Checking the West Sea Otter buoy, along with the Pine and Egg Island light stations, will give you a good idea of the conditions before poking your nose out. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough daylight to make this timing work for us. We caught the beginning of the flood tide as we passed the storm islands. This did create some steep seas as the waves collided with the incoming current. Despite this minor timing issue, Acklet was powered up and we crashed along making good time, all while taking in the scenery and watching the swells explode onto the rocky shoreline.
Ready?
Ready?
Coming out. Thank you. Didn't even get hit by the sail that time. Okay, I got the back here. Never mind.
Woo! Big swell. That was a doozy.
After a solid day of sailing, we entered Fitzhugh Sound, and where Pacific swell meets the rough black breaker rocks, we turned into the anchorage at Fury Cove. Who knew we would find a tropical-esque paradise by sailing north instead of south this winter? The clear emerald waters had us wanting to jump in and swim to shore, although the thoughts of catching hypothermia a quarter of the way there made us think twice about actually doing it. Fury Cove can seem a bit open to the sound at high tide, but as the tide recedes, white sand and shell-bitten beaches appear, making the cove feel more protected and providing more area to explore. It's always easy to have a good sleep after a long sail, to the sound of nothing but rain falling on deck. The next day we head out to do some fishing and caught a nice big fish for supper, the scraps of which we left on the beach for the eagles that had been eagerly watching us from above. had to be one of my favorite anchorages. It was stunningly beautiful, and I couldn't get over its tropical feel, even during the cold, dark winter days. Next, we were off to Perth Bay on Calvert Island, which we didn't actually know was closed until we checked into the free Wi-Fi at the Hakai Institute. We had a very slow sail down the Kwakshua Channel as the winds were light and variable. We kept only our working jib up so we could tack and jibe easily when the wind shifted. The winter caretakers at Hakai made it very clear that the Institute and surrounding land was closed. However, we did have to sneak to shore on a different part of the island to let Moi do her business, as she still refuses to go on the boat. As for touring the island, we were forced to do most of it by drone this trip. I've added in a few shots from when Conley was on Calvert pre-pandemic, just to give y'all a better sense of how cool this island really is. Stop was Quacoom, back over on the mainland, which after a week of waiting out forecast storm force winds, we affectionately named the Vortex, as we barely saw a breath of wind in there the entire time. The anchorage has views of Buxton Mountain, Calvert Island's tallest mountain, and more of the interesting Hecate lowland ecology, with reindeer lichens, mosses, and ancient yet stunted, gnarled, and windswept pines. After exploring the wetlands, it was down to the water to check out the creatures at low tide, such as these moonglow anemones and this painted anemone. We also came across these frilled dogwinkle, or Nucella lamellosa, a type of whelk. They congregate under rocks in the spring and summer to mate and lay eggs in these large clusters, which resemble oats and are attached by stalks to the rocks. Even though it was well below 0 degrees, the sunshine still felt good, and we tried to soak up every bit of it that we could. Even Moi was stoked on the sunny weather. Next, it was off to explore the inner bay, which we were about to find out had frozen over from a combination of freshwater inflow and well below 0 temperatures. Needless to say, we didn't get as far as we had hoped, but we sure had fun playing around with the ice. This was also the first time I became absolutely enamored by the plumose anemone. I made Conley drive me around and around in circles over this high current area where I could watch their delicate, feathery tentacles dance in the water. One evening we got a pretty good show. A Steller sea lion had caught himself a nice big skate and decided to eat it just a short distance from Accolade. It was pretty impressive watching him thrash it around, ripping huge chunks off and nearly swallowing them whole. We figured he must have stashed the leftovers because he returned every evening over the next few days to continue feeding on his prized meal. so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications to be notified of our next video. Also, if you got a bit of time, drop us a comment in the comments box below. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time as we visit Shearwater and have a little bit of a run-in with the winter weather.